Packed History. We're coming out of Hillsboro, Oregon once again. I am Professor Mahlum, and today we're talking about mobilizing for war in World War I. Now, once the war starts, once we decide it's time to take on Germany, we create a draft. In total, 24 million Americans were drafted. Now, for the first time in American history, an IQ test is created and used to determine how best to deploy these American soldiers. And of course, the immigrants scored the most poorly on the IQ test because they struggled with the language, they struggled with a lot of the questions that were phrased in a way that they didn't understand, and as a result, a lot of them were put on the front lines or given menial jobs, and it perpetuated the myth that they were not very smart, which in the 1920s leads to a whole host of xenophobic programs and laws that try to shut off European immigration. Now, interesting thing that happens. Because of this IQ test, we were able to find out literacy rates, and what they found is that 31% of Americans, almost 1 in 3 Americans, were illiterate at the time of World War I. In addition, and this is pretty surprising as well, 30% of Americans that reported to the draft boards were actually deemed functionally incapable of serving, that they had physical handicaps from health issues that it made it impossible for them to serve. So almost 1 out of 3 Americans could not serve. Now, as the number of soldiers started increasing, they had to have all these military encampments that were put all over the United States. And what's interesting is that as these military encampments came up, you saw this moral crusade that was created. You saw YMCAs, Young Men's Christian Associations, that were springing up right alongside them. But at the same time, you also had an increase in the number of brothels and crime that was in the exact same location. So it was almost this really interesting, good versus evil that was going on. Many saw the war as a moral crusade. However, interestingly enough, during World War I, you were not allowed to register as a conscientious objector. As a result, a lot of people were sent to prison for refusing to fight in the war. The biggest religious group that felt the wrath of this was the Mennonites. A number of Mennonites were imprisoned, and a lot of them, struggled as a result. The most famous preacher during World War I, a guy by the name of Billy Sunday, and he very famously says, "If you turn over hell, you will see made in Germany on the other side." He wasn't the only one. The Catholic and Protestant clergy were known for giving blood-curdling sermons in favor of the war. A lot of them perpetuated the myth that when Germany overran Belgium, they raped and mutilated a lot of the Catholic nuns, which has since been debunked, although there's always war crimes, not at the level that it was advertised during that time period. But the long and the short is this, that once America decided to go to World War I, we had to move from a neutral country to a country that was supportive, and the best way to do this was through a moral crusade. And by and large, the American clergy and the presidency under Woodrow Wilson succeeded in getting people excited and involved in wanting to fight World War I. That's it!
Thank you for watching this episode of Power Packed History, and stay tuned for the next episode where we're going to talk about Eugene V. Debs and the Sedition Act.